Before we proceed any further, let's quickly recap on what are the steps that we did yesterday in order to create our application. So I'll just open a notepad just to summarize the things we did. So the first thing that we did was to create a new application. So how we did that was by using ng command, ng new, and here you give your project name. So our case it was shop app. If you want, you can give some other name as well, right? And this you have to give it from a directory where you want to create this project. So that was step number one. After that, what we did was we added in a few of the libraries like Angular Material, Angular Flex Layout. Okay. You can also add other libraries as you require in your project. So maybe if your project uses some third-party libraries for maybe for charting or for some analytics or whatever it could be, you could add the other libraries as well. So the step two is to add the required libraries in your project. And how do we add a new library in our project? There are two ways. So if you're adding the default Angular related libraries, you can just do it by the command ng space add space. After that, just give the library name. So something like this. And if you don't want material, you want flex layout, just replace this material with flex layout, right? After that, what we did, we verified in the package.json if whatever libraries we have installed, is it installed or not. Say for example, we saw here that flex layout is installed, Angular material is installed, and rest of the things are something which is installed by default, right? And when you install material, even this browser animations and all those things gets automatically installed. Okay. So those are the few things which we saw here. The next step is, before we proceed, we also saw that when you kind of install Angular material, it will ask you that which theme do you install. Like you must have remembered that we got a bunch of themes. So if you go to the Angular material official website, here you will see that these are the kind of the four basic themes that you get. So if you remember, we chose indigo and pink by default. So that is why you see that our application is having this pink color default, and it is also following having the same colors as over here, right? And in case if you want to change the color after you have created the project, I will also tell you that. So if you remember from our initial session, all your Angular project related configuration are stored in your angular.json file. So over here, if you come down to something called architect object key, so in that there will be something called the styles, and based on the theme that you selected, so yesterday we selected indigo pink, so that is why you're seeing this styles added over here. It says node modules, Angular material, pre-built themes, indigo pink, right? So say assume like now you don't want indigo pink. What you can do is you can go to this path over here. So if you come to your folder structure, you will have something called node modules. In that you go to Angular @Angular. In that you then go to material. In that you go to something called pre-built themes. And over here you will see those four files name again, right? So now assume that I decided I don't want indigo pink. I decided to maybe go with purple green. Okay. So I just need to change this to purple green over here. And remember, whenever I change any project configuration and my server is running, I need to first kill it. So Control C to kill it and just start it again, right? So what this will do is, if you decided that you want to change your default Angular theme to something else, you can do that as well. Okay. And also one more thing is, it is not required 100% required that you have to only use Angular pre-built themes. If you decide, if your company or like your project has its own theme structure, you can directly import the styles over here, or you can also customize this. So if you go to Angular material website, there is a concept of theming the Angular material. So if you go over here, go through how you can define your own theme, how can you create your own custom themes and all that things, right? So as part of this project, we are not going to customize the theme. We're just going to go with the pre-built theme. And now you can see that earlier we were having this indigo pink color, and now it is up with a purple color. And similarly, if I decided now that I don't want purple pink, and I will maybe go with maybe pink and blue gray. So all I need to do is go back to over here and change this to pink, blue gray, save it, kill the server, and give ng serve, close all your existing open applications, and yeah. So whenever you're starting a new application, I would highly recommend that you first go through this Angular material site, this material theming site, and understand how can you override the existing style, how can you enhance it and all that thing. So it might be helpful when you're starting fresh, a project fresh from the scratch, right? So now you see that now our application has turned into pink and black, right? So but somehow I don't like this color. So we will just go back to indigo pink. So that is more kind of a subtle color for our e-commerce application. So we'll go with indigo pink, kill the server, start it again. So always remember that whenever you change anything in your app config, you add a new library or you create a new file, always ensure to kill your Angular server and start it again. So then only your latest changes will be updated. Okay. So that was a bit about theming and Angular JSON file. And in Angular JSON, you will see there is a bunch of other configurations as well. So at the end of this course, we will just go through it quickly to understand what are some real world applications and real world changes and real world enhancements you can do with this. So for now, you just remember that if you're going to add any custom styles of your own, you need to add it over here. So there is a key called styles inside architect. So if you are going to define your own styles, you will be adding it over here. Okay. And you'll see here that by default there is something called a styles.scss which is already imported. So as I said earlier, this is the kind of a global file over here. So here also you can import other styles as well. So say assume I can create one more styles over here and I can import it over here. Okay. So now what we will do is we'll just proceed with the application. So yesterday we have just created the basic shell for this top toolbar. So if you remember, we said that on the mobile side it would behave like it will just show this burger menu. Click on that, it will show the links, and you click on any link, it will just close it and route it to there, and you bring it on the desktop, it will show all these links, right? And how we did that is, so the first thing that I said is you need to first import the bunch of Angular modules which are required. So in our application, don't worry about the HTML as I said. So all you need to know is, as I said yesterday, like say suppose you're going to take in toolbar. You just go to the toolbar over here, go to the examples, see which example fits your case better. So I think for our case, this is somewhat the closest fit. The only difference is we are going to show this burger menu only on the mobile. So what I will do is I'll just take this toolbar code from here and I will copy paste to my application and I will be enhancing on top of it. So let's try to understand what we did. So the first thing, as I said, if you remember, we should not be writing inline styles like this. So this I've just manually written now just to let you know that this is not a good practice. So always in your Angular application, define styles over here. Okay. So what I'll do is I will just remove this inline style and replace it with a class. Okay. So we set the name as toolbar container, right? So always ensure that you define all your class CSS in the SCSS file like this, and if it is a reusable class like which you feel might be applicable to other components as well, you can put it in the styles.scss as well. And if there are kind of you are working on a very big project, it's not required to overload your styles.scss. What you could probably do is create 2-3 extra files in styles.scss. Like styles.scss, here you can create one more file. So say for example I could create something like home.scss. I'm just making it up. Okay. So which will give all the pre-built or the global styles which is applicable for the home component and those kind of thing. Or maybe I could just generalize it and I could say like maybe forms.scss. So any forms in my application, we could just generalize it or have the global styles from the forms.scss. And how to import it into styles.scss. So all you need to do is just give @import and over here you just give forms.scss. Okay. So if you do like that, it will get imported. And if you want to check if this is working fine, so what we will do is maybe we'll just give a body tag and we will say background for now. Just let's make it red just to check if it is working or not. So if I go back over here, resume. If I go back over here, we don't see it right now, but if you just refresh your application once, or maybe if you just go to inspect element and come to the body tag, you will see that the background is set red. You are not able to see it because our other components are loaded on top of it and it is taking up the entire space. That is why you're not seeing it. But if you just take this home component and delete it, right, and delete all these items, you will see that the background has turned red. So this is the way you can do it. Or maybe I'll show you another easy way. I'll just take all the anchor tag in my application and I will change the color of that to maybe red. Okay, so this is more easy up thing that you can see. So now you will see that for our anchor tag, right, the color red is there, but it is getting overridden. So whenever you see a slash like this, it means that the color is getting overridden because we are using the default Angular material, this indigo pink.scss. So this is one way to debug your application, right? So say for example, you have given some style over here and that style is not coming up. So how can you check whether this particular style is working properly or not? So what you can do is just right click, go to inspect, go to that particular element you want. Say in my case it is home. So go to this anchor tag of this home, and here you just go scroll down and see what is the color. It is saying that color inherit, which means it is taking the default color, and from where it is coming is this indigo pink.scss, which is nothing but our Angular pre-built theme. And if you just scroll down a bit, you see that our form.scss color is getting overridden by this Angular color. But say suppose I want only this to be taking precedence. So in CSS we have this property called imported. So you just give imported after this. So this is just the plain simple CSS, right? Nothing specific to Angular. If you do that, now you see that everything becomes red. Okay. So for now we are not going to define any common styles over here. It was just to show you guys how it works. So I'm just leaving it over here, and I will also delete this file for now. So it was just to show you guys how it works, and I will also delete this import. And yeah, we are now back to the normal thing. Okay. So now in this class, what we'll do is we'll quickly kind of populate the home screen for our application, wherein we will show make an API call and just display the list of products that we want to show. Okay. So for that, the first thing is we have to define our home page. Okay. So what I'll do is before defining the home page, let's quickly kind of go to a website. I will show you guys one website which will be helpful for you to get some dummy data, just similar to how we had the JSON placeholder.typico.com. We have another website which is called fakestoreapi.com. So we have this website called fakestoreapi.com. Ensure you don't add www before it. So it's only fakestoreapi.com. So here the advantage is you can get some real world API which will return you a list of products. Okay. So what we'll do is there is this, if you come below it, you'll see that there are a few APIs over here, like say products, cards, user, login and all. So for the sake of this demo, we will just focus on this products API. If we click on this product, you'll see a JSON is getting returned. So what we will do is in our home component.ts, we will now write the logic in order to make the API call. Okay. So I hope you guys know how do we make the API call. So it is very simple. So before making API call, we have to first import the HTTP module in the component, in the module which you are making the API call. So in our case, we have to, since you are going to make it from the home module for now, we are going to import it over here. So HTTP client module. So this is step number 1. Step number 2, you have to do initialize it over the constructor. So I'll just call it HTTP of the type HTTP client. So this is the same thing that we did in the earlier class, right, where we were making the API call. The same thing I'm going to do it over here. Okay. So once this API, we have kind of initialized the HTTP client, the next step is to actually make the API call. So either I can make the API call in the constructor or I can do it in the ng on it. So say I decided to make it in the constructor itself. Okay. So what I can do is this dot HTTP dot, it's a get call. So I'm doing a get. Here I have to pass the name of the service. So I'll just pass the name of the service over here, right? And I don't need to give any payload or something. So I'm just leaving it empty. And after that, now I need to subscribe to it. So after I subscribe to it, so in order to manipulate this data, we need to have a variable in our home component which is going to take it, right? So let's just give this name as data. Okay. And the type of that data, data is a very generic term. Let's give it as maybe product list. So always ensure that you give your variable name in such a way that even if a new developer comes in, he or she understands what it is about. So for now, let's give it of the name product list, and the type, let's keep it as any. Okay. So now if you just come here and in a subscribe, what we'll do is we'll get a data from the server. Okay. The response data is nothing but the response we receive. And once we receive the response, what we will do is we will just take that response and assign it to product list. Okay. So that's it. Yeah. So I think now we are good. So just to check if this is working fine or not, what we will do is in our home component .html, right? We will just kind of like, display this product list over here. Okay. So we'll just do a string interpolation and we'll just do a product list. But if you guys watch closely, this product list is nothing but an array of data, right? If you see your browser over here, you'll see that this is nothing but an array of data. So what I will do is instead of giving it an any, since I know it is going to be an array of data, so I'll just give it array type any. And to get over this error issue, we can just give it as exclamation. Okay. So just to get over this issue, because currently we have not defined, we don't have a proper defined the data. So I'll just go with any for now. So later we'll come back and refactor it. Okay. We are keeping this any. The data what we are getting is nothing but array, and the object is also following a specific type. So in the due course of time, we will be defining a model which is going to mimic this. So for now, what we are doing is we are taking in this data, assigning it to the product list, and here in our HTML, we are just going to show that product list. But if you observe closely, remember in our previous class we talked that this template expression over here can only parse a string, but this product list is not a string, right? So but still we can also parse a JSON object, and to parse a JSON object we just need to pass it a pipe of the type JSON. So what is this pipe? Don't worry, in the next week, that is a week 8, we are going to talk exclusively about pipe. So you will understand more about it. But for now, just understand this as a way that pipe is nothing, but it kind of just like transform the data that you gives based on the type that you pass it. So say for example, if I tell Angular that this is of the type JSON, then what it will do is it will take this JSON, parse it as a string and send me back. And similarly, if I give it a currency over here, it will take this whatever value we have set, manipulate it as a currency and show you on the UI. Okay. So now if I come to my UI and come to my application and come to our application and refresh it, you see that once the API call is made, I'm getting this data now in my UI. And just to ensure that actually the API call is going, you can come to the network tab, like clear all it from here, go to this fetch XHR and refresh the application. So you will see that this products call is being made here. If I just maximize it, you can see it better. So if I just go to headers, you will see that it is making a call to fake store API. And if you see the response, even if you see the preview, you will see that it is sending me all the list of all first 20 products over here. Okay. So finally we were able to make a call to the actual server, API server, and get the data. Now the next step is we have to kind of manipulate or format it in such a way that it looks better. Okay. So let's do that. And before we do that, if you remember in the previous session what we did, we have to use a bunch of Angular material components to make it happen. So if you come over here, what we are going to do is we are going to use a concept called as card. Okay. So card is nothing but something like this, right? So we will show each product as this one card, one after the other, and we will kind of show a name, we will show the image, we will show the description, and instead of like share, we will show buy now and add to cart, something like that. So we will be doing something like this. And if you take the code for this, we have a some bunch of code like this, and we are going to manipulate it. And similarly, in order to use card, if you remember, I always said go to the API, first import this particular module into your app module, and then only it will work. Okay. So just to save time, what I will do is I'll first quickly type the code, and after that we will start kind of understanding what we have done. Okay, pause. Okay. So the first step, as I said, always remember that whichever module you are using that particular Angular material component, you have to ensure that you are importing that particular module. So say for example, now in home module we are going to use mat card. So ensure that you are importing this mat card module over here. Okay. So sometimes this VS Code autocomplete might not show you suggestion. In that case, what you can do is just go to your Angular material website. Here also I just revert it back. Yeah. And just copy this line over here and come back to your home module.ts, paste it, and you're done. Okay. So now we'll just quickly write the code, and I'll explain you line by line what we are doing. Okay. So as I said earlier, whenever you're using any Angular component in your application, so say for example, if I'm using mat card, as I said, no, we are going to use a similar layout like this card. So to show each of our product, and in order to use this card, always go to this API tab, see which module I have to import for this, and that module I have to import it in the module which is hosting my component. So in our case, it is a home module which is hosting my home component. So I need to import this mat card module here and add it to the import over here. That is step number one. Once you do that, the next step, as I said, you just go to the example. You just see that this is the layout that I'm using. So go to the code of that. You see what is the HTML being used, and in TypeScript if they are doing something. TypeScript mostly there's not much of the action over here. So just copy this TypeScript, the HTML over here, and after that we paste it in our home component and we are going to modify it. So I have quickly modified it for you, and I'll just quickly show you the UI first, how it looks on the browser, and then we'll come back and see what we are doing. So if you see our application, this is how now the local application is looking. So you see that this is fairly like how you see it in any of the e-commerce website. So we have a list of products being shown, and it has the images, it has the profile image, it has the text, it has the header or the maybe the name of the product, then it shows which department it is, then it shows the description of that particular product, then it shows what is the price, and then it shows like the buttons, as I said, for buy now and add, right? And one more thing, as I said, it is responsive. So if you just even minimize the website to the lower level, you'll see that all these products come one below the other. If I just keep on gradually increasing the width, you'll see that based on the available width, each products get added one after the other, right? So the application is now ready. The homepage is ready. Now let's try to understand what we have done. So I'll come back to the homepage HTML and I will explain to you line by line. So the first, as I said, is we have to have this search text over here. So we have not still styled it yet. We will be doing it soon. So for now, just let's understand what we have done so far. So the first is this search over here. So what is the concept of searches? If I type something over here, say maybe men's, okay. So it should be able to filter that keyword from whatever product I have, and it should be able to show. And by the way, if you guys are wondering how this images and everything came, if you come to this API response, right, you will see that over here there is a key called image, and that will give you a URL, something like this. So if I take this URL and paste it, it will actually show an image for me. Okay. So this is how this fake store API works. So what it does is basically it will give you a list of all the product items, and it will also give you the images for that particular product. Okay. So now what we are doing is, the first step is we have to like kind of first have a way to search our product. So that is why we're using this input. Okay. We have added it a class search. We will be quickly also doing some CSS in order to just adjust the height and all that stuff, and the padding and all that stuff. But for now, this is what we are doing. And on key up, we will be triggering this filter event. Okay. So on filter function, we have just defined empty for now. I'll be writing the actual logic with you in a few minutes once we are clear with how the styling is being done. So the second thing is we are just showing the header over here which says welcome to shop app. So if you come to the website, you see here we show that welcome to shop app. After that, here we define the kind of the container of our application. So just to show you what all are the things we have done, I have just written the style over here, but we'll be moving it as a class soon. Okay. So basically what we are doing is we are defining it as a flex, and the flex direction is row, and we are just justified it. Okay. And we are also wrapping it. So this is basically done just for the responsiveness of the application. So since I know that this is very long style and also I should not be using inline style, I'm just defining the class called container, putting all that style over here, and I'll be replacing this style with a class over here. That's it. So now you'll see still it works fine. Okay. So this was step number one. Step number two, we also now have to kind of see, if you now carefully observe, we have to like kind of show this card iteratively multiple times for each product, right? Say for example, here I have 20 products. So I have to now iterate this card 20 times in order to show it in my browser, right? And how can we do that? If you remember from our previous sessions, we have something called as a ng for, which iterates, right? And what we are iterating in ng for is nothing but this product list. And what is product list? Product list is nothing but the API data that we are getting from the backend, right? So this is what we are iterating. We are saying let I of product list. I is the individual product that you have in the product list, and we are giving it a class of cards. Okay. After that, what we are doing is we are defining one more div. We call it as card wrapper. We are just setting the style to width 280. As I said, don't define your inline style. Just to show you that it is a bad practice, I have purposefully defined it, but you can just remove it and add it over here. Okay. So what is this card wrapper 280 means is we are defining the width of this card as 280. So if I go and inspect this item over here, so you will see that if I come to something called the card wrapper, you will see that the width of this card wrapper is 280. Why it is 280? There's no hard and fast rule. If you want, you can keep it as 250. Like, you can just edit over here and you can keep it as 250. If you decided no, I don't like 250, you can also make it as 300. It's all like, up to you how you want to define it. If you want 350, you can keep it as 350 as well. So that is totally up to you. So just for the sake of this demo, I'm taking a random number called 350. But if you want to increase it or decrease it, there's no hard and fast rule. You can do it. Okay. And similarly, if like, I want to add some spacing between the cards, I can just give something like margin, and I will maybe define something like maybe 10 pixels, right? So now you'll see that each product is now separated by some margin. So what I'll do is, along with this, I will also define a margin 0, 10. So 0 is, I'm defining 0 earlier because I don't want margin for top and bottom. I just margin for left and right. So that is why I give this margin. Okay. So these are all just basic CSS. So if you are not aware of what is this, I strongly recommend that you go back and brush your basic CSS. Okay. So now you see that it is slightly nicely adjusted. So even for this entry over here, we can just quickly define the class, the styling for the class over here. And since it is like sticking up to the top, I'll just give it a margin of maybe, or just a margin top of maybe like 50 pixels. Okay. If I come back and see, now it is fine. And also for bottom I need, so what I'll do is I'll just give a margin of 50 0. So here why 50 0? We are giving a margin of 50 on the top and 50 on the top and 50 on the bottom, but we are not giving it for left and right. And one more thing, if you see, the entire application is kind of sticking to the edges of the screen, right? If you see, this welcome is sticking here, and it is, so if I don't want this application to stick to the borders, right? What I can do is I can go to my global styles, which is styles.scss. I have this body over here, right? So inside this body, what we can do is we can define one extra CSS called padding, and here I can just give maybe 10 pixels. Okay. So what it will do is, now you see that there's a light nice padding added. So what it does is basically it will ensure that my application is not sticking to the borders of the screen and there is some nice space left out. And if you don't want it to stick only for one side, that is like the simple CSS that you do. So say assume like I just want the left and the right to just be like little contracted and not the top and bottom. So all I can do is I can just give 0 comma. If you see now, the top and bottom will stick, but the left and right there'll be a nice little space. And similarly, if I just give 10 pixels space 0, now you'll see that left and right are sticking, but the top and bottom there is some space left. Okay, so this is how you can play around. For now, I just give it 10 pixels so that it is throughout it is like leaving some space and it looks good. Okay. And always ensure that if you want to debug something, the easiest way to debug, if you apply some style and it's not coming, the easiest way to debug is just right click on the particular element you want to debug. Say maybe if input, right click, go to inspect, ensure that you are in that same input tag, and on the right hand side there will be something called a styles tab. Here you can see what are the styles that are applied to your particular tab, and in case you see that something you added is not getting applied, so you can just first verify whether that particular style is coming. So earlier, if you remember, I showed how the background red was not getting applied. So if you see something like this striked out color, then you find out where is that color getting applied. Okay. And later what you can do is you can define a class for it, go to your SCSS file, and here if say for example that particular style is not getting applied, you can just add an exclamation important before it. So if you add like this, it means that this styles will take precedence over rest of the styles. Okay. But again, one good practice is avoid using exclamation important as much as possible. As much as possible, try to use CSS precedence. So what is CSS precedence is, if in case there is some style which is overriding my search, so I will try to pair other parent selectors in front of it. Say for example, if I come over here and I see this search is a children of what app home, right, which is of the app home, which is again a child of side nav bar, which is again a child of the side nav container, so on and so forth. So in case if I want to kind of override a style, enforce my style, I could do something like this. I can take this class like this and add it in front of that, and then I can define it like this. So the advantage of that is this is kind of like using a precedence instead of using the exclamatory important. Okay, so this is also another important interview question, like if you don't want to use important, what can you do? You can use like this class precedence, but always ensure that few of the default Angular classes may not work, because some of these classes might get added at runtime. So if you see now, like the CSS is not getting added. So in this case, what you do is you have to define your own div classes in such a way that it forms a proper class, like a proper parent-child relationship, and you add it. Okay, so that is one thing. The next thing is, now we have now defined the product and we have come. Now let's see in the HTML what we are doing. So the HTML, as I said, we are iterating to the product list, so that's why we are using ng for. Then we have defined the card wrapper. After that, now we come to the mat card. So mat card is nothing but these individual component that you see. So we are given it the class of example card, just to like customize any styles if we require in the future. For now we have not done much. After that, we define the header. Header is nothing but this header that you see over here. If you see that this is the header. So here in the header, you see that first we have defined the image. So image, what we are saying is i.image. So I is nothing but the object. In that object, we are taking the image key and passing it to the string, the src attribute. So here you see we are doing nothing but it's a string interpolation, right? And after that, we are adding it this directive of mat card avatar. Why this mat card avatar? It will give you a nice little round image formatting to this image. So that's why using mat card avatar. Okay. After that, we have this mat card title tag, to which we are passing the title key. So if you see the object over here, so this title is this title key we are passing. So we'll get this name over here, right? FGL Raven full stack number one, blah blah blah. And similarly, like this image key is giving me this link to this URL, so which is getting populated over here, right? After that, we are showing the department. So to show the department, what you do is we have something called mat card subtitle to show smaller text. So here we say i.category, and this we are passing it a pipe of uppercase. So whenever in your HTML you see this symbol, right? This I like symbol or the filter symbol. After that, whatever you pass, this is nothing but called a filter. So what it basically does is whatever data you pass to this pipe, based on what pipe it is. So in the earlier case we saw like we did a JSON, if you remember, to parse the object. So here if you give it as uppercase, so any text you pass in whatever case, it will format everything to the uppercase. Okay. So in case I decided I don't want uppercase and I rather want a lowercase, so I can just pass it as lowercase, and now you'll see that all my text is coming as lowercase. Don't worry, what is this? We have a complete section on pipe in the next session. We will be covering it in detail. Okay, so for now what we are doing is just we are kind of formatting this text to uppercase. Okay, so just that it looks good. Next we are coming, so with this we have ended the header part. So till this part was the header, so now is the kind of the image. So for the image we are using the normal image tag. In that we are saying passing it the directive of mat card image, so that it fits properly in this card. And here we define a style of width 150, margin 0 auto. Again, I would recommend that you don't define inline style. Go to your class. Here you can define something like card image. Paste it over here, and always ensure that each style is given in one line. And take this class over here and add the class over here. Okay. So you'll see still that works fine. Okay. And initially you see that your website is blank because it will wait for that API to complete and then only it will load. Okay, so it is fine that initially if you see it as blank, there is not a problem. Just go to your inspect, you will go to the network, clear it out and refresh it. You will see that till the network call is made, the status here will be showing pending. Okay, so once it shows 200, after that immediately it will load for you. So here we are basically showing the image. After that we take the card content. So card content is nothing but here where you show the description and all that stuff. So for description, we have something called I dot in the description key, which shows the description of the product. That's why you're doing I dot description. So remember, IE is nothing but one object. So one object is nothing but here you see this ID one, right? Yeah. So this is one object, whatever I've highlighted. So this one object is what, like, we are taking in, and each key we are passing in the HTML so that the value of that key comes into the HTML. Okay. So after that we show the price. Again, since it is a price, we are passing it the type of currency. So what currency does is it will format it as a currency. Okay. So if I don't pass currency, right, what happens is it will just show the number, but I want it to show the, say, like dollar, and dollar is just because, like, we are currently using the US local. If you want to show it with the Indian rupees, again you can write your own custom pipe to do it. Okay. So for now I'm just using it. I'm passing the default built-in currency pipe. So once I pass that, it will now show me the dollar symbol automatically, and it will show me the price along with it, right? And after that, with this I end my mat card content, and after that there is something called a mat card action section. So action is nothing but where the user can take some action. So here basically we have two buttons. So we are using the directive of mat raised button. For one we are telling the color is accent, for the second we are telling the color is primary. That doesn't really matter, it's up to you. After that we are passing it a click action of buy now and add to cart, and we just show the label of buy now and add to cart. Okay. And we have just added this ampersand in PSB just to show this little space over here. Okay. So that is what we have done with the HTML, and we have closed the div. So now we are done with this HTML. Now let's quickly see how can we filter this product based on what we type over here. So now if you see, nothing is getting filtered, right? So how can we write this filter concept? So this is where you have to think a bit and understand how can we do it. So if you just think logically, how can we filter is very simple. All you need to do is you can do it in two ways. So one way is we have this product list already, right? If you take for the current implementation, we already have the product list because we only have 20 list in the item, right? So one way to filter is, if you want to do it in for our scenario, you just filter this product list with whatever keyword the user is typing, and you can pass it to the back to the user. Okay, that is one way. The second way is, say, assume your this is work something like Google, right? So Google user can type anything. It's not possible that you can store all that data in your browser itself. So in that case, whatever user types, we can take that keyword and make a call back to the backend. Okay, so if you come to this fakestore.com, right? So here you will see that there is an option where the user is kind of you can make a call like this, where we also pass in a optional parameter like user ID 1, limit 5, so on and so forth. So similar to that, based on the what your API team gives you, so you can also make a similar API call again and pass the query parameter with this, and whatever data you come, you just update the product list back. Okay. So since this is just a dummy API, we will not be making that API call. Rather, what I will show you is how can we filter this product list and show it back to the user. Okay. So what we'll do is, to do that, first in the input event we have defined this key up. On the key up we have defined a function called filter, and we are passing the input of default event, right? So now what we'll do is, in this on filter we'll write the logic to filter the product. So what you'll do is, this dot product list, this dot product list equals to, so the first is, so since we are getting the event is nothing but the value of the input, right? So that's why I've given the argument as value and type as any. Okay. So the first I have to check whether this user has entered anything or not. Okay. So that is why what I'll give is value dot target dot value. Okay. Or in case if it is getting confusing for you, we can just give it as event, the name as event over here, and we can give event as well. Okay. So what we are doing first is, we are first checking if user has typed anything or not. Say the user is just coming over here, he or she has just typed a space and again deleted it, right? So first step, I'm checking whether there is any value existing in that input field or not. Okay, so that is why this not over here. So not ensures that if it is empty. Okay, so what I'll do is, if this is empty, right, I can, maybe what I can do is I can just kind of define a method over here. So maybe I'll just say load product, and whatever we are doing in the constructor, right, I will just cut it, I will paste it over here, and in the constructor I will call this dot load product once, and even over here I will call this dot load products once. Okay, don't worry what we are doing, I will just explain you, bear with me. So basically what we are doing is first we are checking if the value is empty. If the value is empty, I'm just loading the original data again. Okay, that's why this load product. Why I have written a function out of it? Because the same code I'm also calling in the constructor. So just to avoid the duplication of code, I have defined a function. So the same function I can call in constructor, the same function I can call over here as well. And it's not necessary that you have to do it in a ternary operation. You can also write a simple if else, but I somehow prefer writing ternary. So let's try to do it in the ternary way itself. Okay. So this is for the scenario if the user has given empty string. So what if user has now typed something? So in that case, what we can do is we can do this dot product list dot filter, and here you just filter. Okay. So let's understand what we have done. So this part I hope you guys are clear. So first we are checking if the event is like if the value is empty, we directly just load the product, like we just load the original list from the product and show to the user. So this is for the scenario if the user has deleted whatever they have typed. The second else part, what we are doing is we then take this product list. Okay, since this is an array, we filter it. We take each object in that filter, like in that array, and then what we check is if that object's title key, and we are converting to lowercase, because if you don't convert to lowercase, it will actually check with the same case what the user types. So where this will cause error is, so say I go to notepad and say, like, if the object the product that you are having is, say, maybe called as, like, it's called Vimbar. Okay, and the user types Vim, it still should be able to search it, right? So in order to search it, what we do is we just first convert it to lowercase, and then we check if the dot index of means if that particular string is part of this particular text or not. So index of is nothing but just to check if both are matching or not, right? So we check whatever user has typed whether that is, like, part of this particular title or not. If that is true, we just assign it back to this product list and it comes back. So filter is basically, like, just to filter out any object which is matching your search parameter. Okay, so now let's see if this works or not. So I come back to my UI is nothing but my browser. So here let me just type maybe men's. Okay, so here you see that, initially now nothing is happening. Now let's see why it's not working. So it's not working because here we are converting it to lowercase, but here we should be converting it to lowercase, because both of that should be of the lowercase, so then only it will work. And after that we have to say, like, that should exist in that array. So for that we give it as greater than -1. So what this -1 means is, so whenever we do an index of to an array, right? So this is a basic JavaScript concept which you guys should know. So say let's assume, like, I define an, or maybe if I just define an array of, say, a string. So I just call the string name as maybe skill link. Okay. So now I want to now check whether in the skill link there is the letter Z or not. So what I can do, x dot index of Z. So it will show me as -1. What -1 indicates is that particular string is not present in the given word. And if I search for something like S, it will tell that, it is present in the 0th index. Always remember that array starts at 0 index, right? So it starts like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. And if I search something like the small s, it will again say a -1. Why? Because this capital S and small s are two different characters in JavaScript, right? So that's why we are first converting into lowercase, and then we are also converting this to lowercase, and then we are doing the search. So that is what is happening over here. So now if I save it and I run it, so now let's take some random product and search. So let's maybe search for the SanDisk. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just type in any characters. Okay, I'll just type everything in capital. Proceed. So after this lowercase, we have to also close the method. Yeah, so now let's try. So we'll give san, so just to ensure. So there was just a bracket issue. So now the bracket syntax is proper. Now let's search. If I search for SanDisk, you'll be able to see it. So if you observe over here, irrespective of the case we give it search. So even if I type everything in caps, it will come. So similarly, if I type say maybe WD, you'll see that it first makes the API call and it will search for us. So now if I type something like say men's, so anything related to men will come. Women also comes because it contains MEN, right? And similarly, if I type maybe women, you see that anything related to women is now coming. Okay. So this is a way in which we can filter anything that we want. So also like say you want to search for steel, right? You just type steel, so you'll get what you want. So this is a way how you can filter your product quickly, right? And there is a lag if you see like once you clear something or type and it comes back, there's a lag because it actually makes the API call and comes back. So that's why you are seeing that lag in the display, right? And anything that you type will now come. Okay. So with that, I hope now you guys are clear how we can add the thing and just search it. So the next thing which I want you to guys to do as part of your project is like complete this section wherein like you guys add the logic where like when you click on buy now, it will take you to the checkout page which will show you a confirmation of like you're going to buy this product at this rate. And if you click on confirm, it just shows you a dummy alert that product successful. And similarly, if I just click on this add to cart, it should like add that particular entry in the cart. And the depending on the number of items you're adding, it should mathematically like show me the total and the count of each product. And finally, when I click on confirm order, it should again take me to that confirmation page where it just tells me what is the summary of items I'm buying. And if I click OK, like proceed, it should show me that confirmation that it is done. Okay. So with that said, we have completed this session of week 7 where we have understood how can we create a real world application from the scratch.
So with that, we have now come to the summary section of week 7. So let's quickly summarize what we have learned so far. So this week we saw that attribute directives modify the behavior of HTML DOM elements, whereas the structural directives can add, remove or update the HTML DOM element itself. We saw this with help of examples like ngIf and ngFor, wherein ngFor was more like an attribute directive and ngIf was more like a structural directive. We also saw how we can create our own customized directors for our application based on the use cases. And finally, we just had an introduction to Angular Material and CDK, that is Component Development Kit, which can be used to reduce development efforts and use pre-built components and utilities from Angular team that adheres to the material design. So Google has its own material design, which is kind of like also one of the standards by which most of the web applications are developed. So when you use Angular Material and CDK, it kind of fast tracks your application development, where you can use most of these pre-built components from them and reduce your development effort. And these are a few reference links for you to go through, especially for Angular Materials and also for built-in directives, so which will help you to gain some more understanding apart from what we have discussed in the class so far. So with that, we have come now to the end of week 7. Thank you for your time and looking forward to see you in the next week.